Hello everyone and welcome to the King's College London presentation. I hope you're having a great College Week Live here today, the International University Day on College Week Live. My name's Chris Payne, I'm from King's College London. I'm actually coming to you live from our US office here in the Washington DC area of Alexandria, Virginia. We're the first English university to have a US office that does outreach and student support. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on and what this office is here to do, try and help you make the right decision and investigate options to come to King's College London. Today's presentation is going to be in a couple of different parts. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about studying an undergraduate degree in England, some of the differences between the US system, the UK system, some of the benefits of coming to the UK, and some things that you might want to consider when applying in the application process in general. Then I'm going to move on to talk about King's College London, and talk about why you might want to consider studying at King's, and talk about what we offer, the programs and the student support that we have, where we're located, and other things. And then feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. You should all see a question box in your portal, and then I will basically answer them at the end of the presentation. There'll be plenty of time to answer any questions that you have at the end. And if I don't have time to answer all of them, I'll be back on the booth if you want to come and visit the virtual booth after this presentation to continue the dialogue. So to get started then, I thought it'd be useful to talk a little bit about the English education structure. Now you notice I'm saying English in England rather than the UK or British, and that's because the English system and the Scottish system is a little bit different. So I'm going to be focusing today on the English system, and no doubt colleagues from other universities, those of them that are from Scotland, will be able to tell you a little bit more about the Scottish structure as well. So in the English education structure at high school level, which we call secondary, we do something called A-levels, advanced level subjects, and these are loosely equivalent to APs that you might be studying in America. So typically at high school level we start to narrow down our options, and we start doing 5 or so A-levels. Now what happens after we complete those A-levels at secondary school or high school, we then apply for an undergraduate degree. In England, undergraduate degrees are 3 years in length versus 4 in America. The main reason for that is that you have a focused degree in England. You apply for a particular program, a particular major, and right off the bat, that's what you're going to be studying. So we don't have this delightful undeclared structure that you might have in the US, where you can keep changing degrees and disciplines. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Then just to kind of go into the bigger picture, after an undergraduate degree in England, you can then go on to a 1-year master's program, what we call postgraduate taught degrees. That's graduate school essentially. They're only 1 year in the UK versus 2 years in America. And that's because the undergraduate degree was a lot more specialised. The master's degree can be 1 year. So really in 4 years, if you want to, you can come to England to study an undergraduate and a graduate degree in 4 years, what it would take typically to do an undergraduate degree in the US. So big advantages of coming to the UK. If you really want to look long term, we also offer PhD programs, and PhD programs are 3 years in length versus 5, 6, 7+ years what they could be in the US. And that's because, again, building blocks, more focused undergraduate degree, then focused master's degree, and so that gives us a time to shrink the PhD, and you really are just focusing on your research in the PhD program. So that's really just to give you a quick overview of the entire education structure so you can understand how each level builds on the next. Obviously we're talking today at College Week Live, we're talking about undergraduate degrees predominantly, so I'll move on now to talk a little bit more about the benefits of studying in England in regards to an undergraduate degree. Right off the bat, academically speaking, which is obviously important, is that degrees are recognised in the US from the UK. So degrees from England are recognised by US employers, by US colleges who are looking to go to graduate school. We're quite fortunate, similar to with the US, the UK higher education system is highly regarded worldwide. So there's nothing to worry about in terms of the quality. A degree from England also gives you kind of new viewpoints. A lot of the degrees you will find have this global focus. We encourage language learning, study abroad. A lot of them have global comparative pieces in there. So you can really get a multiple viewpoint, global focus degree that's really going to make you stand out from your peers that may remain in the US. Financially speaking, because of this shorter completion time, tuition typically is less coming to England, which might, if you've been to England, been to London as a tourist, may sound surprising, but actually it's cheaper typically to study in England than it is to study in the US if you're looking at out-of-state schools. Not only is it because of the short completion time, but generally speaking, yearly tuition is less than a comparable US institution as well, so that you can save some money by coming to England. Also, you can work as a student. You can work up to 20 hours a week on or off campus. You can get internships, you can volunteer, you can get a part-time job discovering the delights of working in a British pub if you wanted to. Whatever you want to do with your time, those 20 hours a week, is up to you. In the summertime, you can work full-time. So any time outside of academic sessions, so during the holidays and during Christmas, during the Christmas rather, and during the summer, you can completely work. You can come back to the States if you want. You can stay in England and work over the summer to get more experience, more money. That's all your entitlement. Also, our beloved National Health Service could be yours for your duration of your studies in the UK. So what this basically means is you don't have to worry about how your health insurance will come over. You actually are going to be automatically enrolled into our National Health Service and have all access to medical care that British or Europeans would have that are residing in the UK. We also, most UK institutions also accept FAFSA, so financial aid and loans. Anything typically that you may be able to get for a US college is transferable to a UK university as well. In terms of this international employment perspective as well, a couple of things to note is recent research done by the British Council, which is part of the British Embassy that promotes UK education, has found that US employers value UK degrees and international experience the same, if not more, than a US degree. So US employers are really valuing this international perspective that students bring if they've studied abroad into a US workplace, and obviously now, as the world's getting more globally connected, interconnected, having that global focus, that ability to adapt to different cultures, to different languages, to different environments, is seen as a highly valued skill to have. Furthermore, for those of you that may love the UK and want to stay, you can stay potentially to work in the UK after your studies. You just need to be sponsored for a Tier 2 work visa. Now that means, in a nutshell, the employer has to sponsor you. So you do have to find an employer who's willing and able to sponsor you. But having studied in the UK, you're exempt from something called the labour market test. Now, what that essentially means is if you wanted to apply for a job, if you went to a US college and wanted to apply for a job from the US to come to the UK to work, if I was the employer, I would have to prove what skill, what knowledge are you bringing in into the UK that I cannot find from a person from the UK or the entire EU. Now, depending upon the field and the level and your experience, that could be quite tricky. However, if you studied in the UK, you are exempt from this labour market test. So I do not need to prove what makes you so special. I just have to pay whatever the cost might be for the visa, and then you're good to go. So that's a huge advantage if you're looking at staying in the UK beyond your studies as well. Talking a little bit more about some of the differences between the two systems, in terms of applying to degrees in England and the UK for that matter in this case, suitability for the program is really based on your academic background. So what you will start to notice is from looking at the universities today, on College Week Live and in general, is that every program will have different entrance requirements. There's no one set requirement because every program is different, and you're applying, as I mentioned earlier, directly for your major. As a result of that, every program will have slight variations of what they're looking for, slight differences in subject preferences from your APs if they need it, or SAT subject tests. So it's really important to have a look in detail about what the program's looking for. There's also a big element of independent study in the UK versus the US. You typically only have 4 classes a semester, or 4 courses rather a semester, and then for each course you have a lecture and a seminar, which I'll talk about later on. And so you're going to have a little more flexibility outside the classroom to do independent study, to do your own research, to prepare for those lectures and seminars. As a result, most UK students kind of treat the university experience as a 9 to 5 job. where they, regardless of if they have class or not, they will be on campus preparing or in class. So it's a little bit different of a setup. It encourages you to independently act a little bit more than what it might do in the US. In terms of the grading structure, that's a little bit different as well. I always like to highlight that. This is obviously assuming that you're coming, but in terms of the grading structure in the UK, just to flag that we typically mark a little bit differently than you might find in the US. By which I mean, in the US, typically you have multiple choice tests at college or essays. Everyone starts at 100%, and then you take off points if you get something wrong. In the UK, everyone starts at 0, and they have to work their way up. Not many people will get 100% in anything, and that's fine. Because unlike in the US, where you need to get typically at least 90% to get an A, in the UK typically an 80% is an A. So the grades and the percentages are very different. If you get something that's 90, 95, 100% in an essay or in a paper, that's almost publishable work. That's perfect. Essentially, that means there's nothing else you could do. In most situations, there's always something else you could have done or you could have added and commented on. So it's very unlikely in most situations outside of multiple choice tests that you're going to be getting 100%. But don't panic. 80% is a very good grade in the UK. 70% is a B in many cases. 80% is an A or anything above that. So just be aware of that when you start looking at syllabuses and different things when you get to that stage. As a result of that, applying directly to a particular major, you're going to have a lot more subject knowledge in your particular discipline than what you would have in the US. Typically, with the 4-year degree here, you would have your first 2 years maybe general electives, and then it's your final 2 year that really define your major. Well, in the UK, 3 years define your major, you go straight into your major. So you have a lot more knowledge in that. So if you're passionate about a particular subject, that's great, because you don't have to do these general electives outside your discipline. Law and medicine, also to highlight, these are professional degrees, and these are undergraduate degrees in England. So we don't have medical school at the graduate level or law school. These are undergraduate schools. So if you do have interest in those, as an undergraduate student, you can go straight into these professional programs as well. Moving on a little bit to how you can research universities. These listed on here, the PowerPoint that you see in front of me, are a few different ways. The British Council, which promotes UK education, britishcouncil.org/USA. It's a fantastic resource to start looking. There's also obviously university rankings that you can have a look at, as I listed on here, Times Higher. Obviously going to university websites, each university will have an international section. I always encourage you to regard yourself as an international student and to start off looking and researching in the international sections, because a lot of students may get a little bit confused by British terminology if you start on the typical home pages of universities, but if you actually find their international sections, a lot of that terminology is translated into language that you're more familiar with. You can also contact universities directly with questions as well. We're quite open and we encourage questions before you apply, so please do feel free to reach out to us. There's something called UCAS, which I'll touch upon a little bit more detail in a moment, but UCAS is also great research. Not only is it an application program that I'll talk about, and that's how you apply to UK universities, it also lists every single university and enables you to identify programs of interest. And obviously talk to your teachers as well, as you would do in a US college search. So undergraduate study in a nutshell. It's 3 years except medicine and dentistry, which are 5 years. All of the degrees typically are 3 years. There are always maybe exceptions, but ballpark figure 3 years. You specialize in a particular subject. It is possible to study double majors, major minor though. However, universities group them together and recommend which ones fit. So you can't make up your own grouping. So you can't combine history probably with computer science, for example. They're two different, but maybe computer science and business, or computer science and engineering, or history and philosophy, you can combine. So please investigate that. Typically there's no summer study. Semesters typically run from September to December, break for Christmas. Typically in the UK, when you get back after the holidays, so that's when you have your exams from the first semester, not before Christmas. Again, this may vary from institution to institution, but that's the traditional approach. So nice little holiday treat for you. And then typically then it will go from January through to May with a spring break in the middle for your second semester. As I said, no summer. So then you have the whole summer off and then you come back to hit it again. As I've mentioned, you have lectures and seminars, so you typically would do 4 courses, and for every course you will have a lecture and a seminar, or if it's a science subject, you have a lecture and a lab. Lecture could be 50, 60, 100 people, depending upon the size of the course. Seminars are always going to be small, 25 people on average in a seminar. A huge difference that I forgot to mention earlier actually as well is that typically British universities don't use teaching assistants. So that means you're going to get the full academic teaching your lecture and teaching your seminar, which may not always be the case obviously in the US, where you might have teaching assistants in huge classes depending upon the universities that you're looking at. So that's another huge advantage to get access directly with the academic. In terms of applying, this is key. So as I said, you're applying and it's based on academic merit and it's based on academic suitability for a particular program. You apply through something called UCAS, and that's basically ucas.com. You can have a look. It's similar to the Common App, if you're those of you that are familiar with the US Common App, but it has some fundamental differences, by which through UCAS you can clearly research all courses, and it restricts the number of applications you can make. You make 1 application, you select 5 different universities or different programs. Typically it'll be 5 different universities, and the idea is you will pick a particular subject discipline and you will apply for 5 different universities within that discipline. So for example, at the undergraduate level I study business and I apply for 5 different universities for business, and then I wait to see which ones I get offers from. Now, to apply to those 5 universities, you would write a personal statement, and then on your personal statement you will talk about generically why are you interested in business in my case, what do you hope to do with the business degree, what sparked your interest in this area, what have you done at the high school level, extracurricular, again relating all back to the academic suitability for the program, almost like you're applying for a job. What you do not do, however, the undergraduate level is mention a particular institution. So we would love it, for example, if you put, I've always dreamed of studying at King's College London. However, your other 4 universities may not take as kindly to that profession of desire there in terms of wanting to come to King's. So definitely more generic based. However, it needs to be focused on a particular discipline. So you can't, in your 5 choices, apply for business, biology, engineering, literature, philosophy. In one statement, you can't cover all those 5 areas. Every university will read the same statement, so that's why it's very important to narrow down and pick one discipline. If you don't know what you want to study, then that involves you researching and thinking about that and talking to teachers, talking to family, contacting universities before you apply. You only get one shot at applying. In addition to your personal statement, you include a reference. That's typically done by your college guidance counsellor, where they will include all your predicted grades, how you're doing, your academic performance to date, and what they think of your desire to study whatever you might want to be studying, your suitability for that. And that's basically it. There's no interviews typically. The only exception for interviews typically are medicine. Some universities might have some supplemental materials for you to do on top of that, but very rarely. So your only big way to showcase yourself is your personal statement, and then through your college counsel and your reference letter. Deadlines to bear in mind are October the 15th. So if you're looking at coming next September, if you're a senior in high school now and you want to come next year, October the 15th this year is a deadline for dentistry and medicine, and also if you're looking to apply for Oxford or Cambridge. All other programs, January the 15th. So you have a little bit longer if you're looking at other programs, but medicine and dentistry take a little bit longer to review, so they do have an earlier deadline. As I said, please feel free to check out ucas.com for more information. That's just to give you a quick overview. Before I move on to King's then, I just wanted to touch upon a couple of frequently asked questions about the UK in general, and then we'll move on to talk about King's. One of them that comes up a lot is, I have a British or an EU passport for that matter, do I qualify for home tuition? Now, typically the answer to that is no. To qualify, it's great that you have a UK EU passport. That means you don't have any work restrictions. You can come and study. You can come and work afterwards. You have a lot of flexibility in travel. However, to get home tuition, it's based on residency and not based on the type of passport that you have. So to be qualified for home tuition, you need to have been living in the EU and paying taxes, or your parents paying taxes for the previous 3 out of 5 years. And that's basically like if you were from Virginia and you were born in Virginia, but then you lived in New York, and now you want to come back and go to a school in Virginia, they won't probably give you in-state tuition, even though you're born in Virginia. You have to have been living there 3 out of the previous 5 years. So please bear that in mind. Will my UK degree be recognised in the US? I've kind of alluded to that at the beginning. Yes, it will be. UK degrees are highly recognised in the US. And can I transfer? We get lots of questions typically about if you start off at a community college or you start off at a US college and you want to come over to the UK. That varies on a case-by-case basis. We don't have a transfer system like you have in the US. It's very much just on a case-by-case basis. The reason for that being, because you've only got the 3 years that you're studying, if you miss the first year, you've missed the foundation of the major. So going into the second year of a 3-year degree is very difficult. Also bearing in mind that even if you've done 2 years at a US college or you've done a year at a US college, if you've only done general electives and you haven't actually done anything within your major, then there is nothing to transfer in any case. We won't regard any of those credits. We only care about your major. But it may be possible on a case-by-case basis, so I do always encourage you to check with the admissions office at the relevant university to confirm that. So moving on to King's College London. Probably not surprisingly, King's College London was founded by a king, hence the name, by King George IV in 1829. We're the 4th oldest university in England, and we're ranked in the top 30 in the world, according to this slide. However, today it's just been announced that we are actually now ranked in the top 20 in the world, according to the QS University World University Rankings. So out of the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of universities in the world, we're now ranked 19th, which is pretty good, I think. We're also the most centrally located university in London, and we're the largest provider of healthcare training. We have a huge amount of different academic disciplines at King's, which I'll touch upon later on. We're known for our research excellence, by which I mean we're a research-led institution. We're part of something called the Russell Group in the UK, which is equivalent loosely to the Ivy League, I guess, in the States. So Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, LSE, King's, etc. are all part of this top-tier group. And so research impacts our teaching, and teaching impacts our research. Even at the undergraduate level, a lot of our academics have played a major role in many of the advances that shape modern life, as this slide says, such as the discovery of DNA, mobile technology, cancer research, etc. And all that research goes back into the classroom, so you're getting cutting-edge information. So our ability to combine our teaching with our research means that we offer quite an interesting and unique experience at King's. We teach in a variety of different ways, and the idea and the philosophy behind the teaching at King's is training students how to think, not what to think. And what this essentially means is we typically won't offer multiple choice tests. It's going to be giving you time to reflect, to research, to argue, to debate, and to voice your opinion in the subject matter, regardless of what it may be. And so it really is training that ability to research and formulate your own opinion, rather than just simply repeating things back to the professors, which is a great environment, I think, to be in. To give you an idea of our breakdown, we have roughly 14,500 undergraduate students at the university, close to 8,000 now graduate students, that's master's students, and then 2,500 PhD students. So we have students across all levels. We're quite a big university from a British point of view, of which we have over 7,000 international students from 150 different countries. and so we offer a huge range of students coming from all over the world. There's not one country that dominates, which is exciting. London itself is very diverse, as I'll talk about in a moment, but it's a great student body to be part of which we probably have about 1,000 students or so across all levels coming from the US every year as well. So we've have a long history of attracting US students, so we attract quite a few every year from the States. As I mentioned, we offer a wide variety of subjects. Don't let this slide put you off a little bit too much or mislead you. The size of the font is not evident of the size of the school. So we have everything from law, biomedical sciences, social science and public policy. So social science and public policy includes things such as international relations, international policy, war studies, international development, global health, geography, looking at sustainability, urban planning, environmental change, all those kind of areas. Arts and humanities includes things such as English, philosophy, history. We wouldn't be a British university, I guess, if we didn't have Shakespeare. So you can study Shakespeare as well. We're also one of the only English universities with a liberal arts degree, which is a little bit more probably similar to what you're familiar with, in the sense that the liberal arts degree enables you to kind of going undeclared. You have a degree in liberal arts, and then in your second year you can declare your major and your minor across a whole range of programs within arts and humanities, which is a fantastic opportunity if you want to kind of have more flexibility within your studies. Biomedical sciences is a big one for us, so anatomy, biology, pharmacy, pharmacology, biochem, all of those areas as part of that school. Natural and mathematical sciences, so if you're interested in robotics, computer science, mathematics, physics, those are all in that school. And as I mentioned, we also have the three big professional schools: medicine, dentistry, and law, which you can also go into. Unfortunately, nursing it's not available to international students at the undergraduate level. If you're a graduate student watching and you're interested in nursing, you can apply for nursing, but at this moment in time, it's only available for domestic EU students at the undergraduate level. In addition to our 9 schools of study, we have 4 global institutes. Now, this is an exciting addition to the university, and these were formed over the last few years. So we're focusing on China, Brazil, Russia, India, the BRIC economies they're referred to. So no matter what you're studying, you have an opportunity to learn about these emerging economies that in our lifetime are going to play a huge role as the power and economic shift from the West to these emerging economies. So in addition to learning the languages, the culture, these are really looking at how these countries impact society today and how they're going to continue to impact society in the future. So again, the idea is to open up your degrees and make them globally focused. So regardless of what you're studying, you have this international perspective when you come to King's. London itself, for those of you that have been to London, London's a fantastic city, and King's is very much at the heart of the city. And London's often referred to as a global gateway for Europe, if not the world. Unlike in the US, we have different cities that have different specializations, such as New York is your financial hub, DC, where I currently am, is the kind of the political hub. California is kind of the IT area. London really combines all of that into one city. So no matter what you're interested in and what you're passionate about outside your academic pursuits, London really has everything to offer. To give you a nice aerial shot of London, this is the river that you can see going through. That's the River Thames. You can kind of make out the London Eye. In the middle of the photo there, with that bridge next to the London Eye is called Waterloo Bridge, and that's actually the bridge that connects our 2 campuses, which you'll see in a moment. So we're right there. When we say we're in the centre of London, we're really in the heart of the city on the River Thames. To give you kind of a different way to show that, here are all the different famous attractions that you've probably heard of, ranging from the British Museum to the Shakespeare Globe, House of Parliament, etc. All surrounding the centre of London. Our campuses are there. So we have 5 campuses all along the river. So depending upon what you study, you'll be based at one of the campuses. The 2 main campuses for the non-science areas are the Strand and Waterloo, and then your Guy's, St Thomas, and Denmark Hill if your medicine, your dentistry, and your medical areas of study. So that's kind of how the campuses separate, and depending upon what you study, you'll be based at one of those campuses. To give you some idea of the distance, the Strand campus to the Waterloo campus is connected by that bridge that I talked about a moment ago, and that's probably about an 8-minute walk from campus to campus. So it really is compactly in London. London itself is a fantastic city to be a student. There's more students in London than any other city in the world. There's more universities probably than any other city, certainly in Europe, if not the world. There's 20 to 30 different universities or institutions in London alone. It's a very vibrant, multicultural, diverse city, lots of things going on. I like to say that it's a combination in my mind from now living over in America the past year or so of New York, Boston and DC. It's kind of those combined. It's got the tempo and speed and diversity of New York, but with the nice buildings and the history, I would say, of Boston and DC. And it's a little bit more compact than New York, particularly in the center. So it's a great city to be in. It's a great city to be a student. A misconception perhaps of London is it's going to be very expensive, because those of you that have been to London before as a tourist, you may have experienced the delights of staying in the central London. However, living in London and being a student is a very different experience than being a tourist in London. There's lots of students discounts on offer, and so when you immerse yourself into the local community, you're going to have a very different experience. In terms of learning at King's, just to touch upon again, that our teaching style is similar to the general one that I talked about earlier in the presentation. We normally have lectures, then we move on to seminars, where we kind of reinforce the learning that we talked about in the lecture. So the lecture gives you kind of the overview, the seminars drill down to small group discussions to kind of give you an opportunity to voice your questions, your opinions, your ideas about the subject matter. If you're doing the sciences, you're going to have tutorials and labs, obviously where you're conducting the experiments. We also have personal tutors. Now, when I say personal tutor, that doesn't mean that they're on call 24/7, but we have tutors appointed to you within your major that are responsible with you for your academic performance for your degree to make sure you stay on track and you graduate on time. We had something like over 90% of our students graduate within the 3 years on time, which is a huge percentage. So we're very good at once you get in, to help you achieve as much as you can. And also, as I mentioned, the idea of independent study time to, again, go outside of the box, do your own reading, do your own research as well. We encourage that greatly at the university. We also have internship opportunities for you. So again, regardless of what you're doing, you have opportunities to include internships in your degrees or do them outside of the degree if that's not necessarily possible. Obviously, being in London, access and partners with a lot of different entities in London. Some of our big partners at the moment in London are the British Museum, the British Library, the Shakespeare Globe Theatre, the Tate. We've placed students in the BBC, all over London in different industries, different sectors. So lots of opportunities to get involved. We also have exchange partners around the world. So we encourage students to go abroad. So technically, I guess you're coming abroad once to the UK, but you can go abroad again as well as part of your experience. You can send a semester or a year abroad. So to give you some ideas, you can go anywhere in Europe pretty much. Sometimes you have to obviously know the language to immerse yourself fully. But also if you wanted to go to Asia, we've got University of Hong Kong, National University of Singapore, Renmin University in Beijing, to name but a few. If you want to have a bit of a US experience, and you're a little bit nervous about missing out on the US altogether, we also have a number of US partners as well. Some of our big partners in the US are UNC Chapel Hill, Georgetown University, George Washington University, UC Berkeley, UCLA, University of Chicago, University of Michigan. So these are big exchange partners that we're developing to give you that window back into the US as well, which I encourage you to do if you want to combine your experiences and still graduate within those 3 years. At King's, we're very much known for the level of support that we provide. So we like to say that we're with you from the moment that you apply to after you leave and beyond. So we have lots of services. The office here is a prime example of that. My team is here to help support you through your application, to guide you through that, to help you find the right program for you. But then also we do pre-departure sessions across the US. We do events. We often visit schools and attend recruitment fairs and student events. And also then when you get back, we have over 5,000 active alumni in the US, particularly DC, New York and Boston are huge for us, LA, San Francisco growing, and those chapters in those cities in particular organize events every year, and so it's a great way to continue being involved in the university. We also offer a mentor program, so when you get back, regardless of where you're from across the US, we try to match you with an alum, older alum that's probably established in your field that you want to try to break into to help you get into that local network and to advise you on your future career. So that, again, these are to show kind of the level of support that we provide. In addition to those, kind of while you're at King's, we have something called the Compass that kind of is our one-stop shop for all questions. That again, is there to help you regardless of what your question might be, from how do I open a bank account, where do I go for X, to can you help guide me? I'm having difficulties with my subject. Where do I go? We also have world-class library facilities that you have access to, and a lot of material online to give you access 24/7 as well. In terms of tuition, to give you some ideas, these were last year's prices, but to give you some idea, it's roughly around $22,000 per year tuition and fees to come to King's. That's starting from some programs are a little bit more expensive than that, depending upon which program. They do vary, so please do check. But as you can imagine, 3 years, $22,000 roughly a year. It's a pretty comprehensive program, I think, if you compare us to Georgetown, Columbia, UC Berkeley, UCLA, etc. We also do have scholarships. We have a number of scholarships that are eligible for US students or international students from around the world. Please do have a look at that. And as I mentioned earlier, we also do accept FAFSA as well. In terms of the US, so what are we looking for? As I mentioned, entrance requirements vary by program, but to give you some ideas, the minimum requirements that we look for is 1,800 in the SATs. We also do accept ACT as well. The number escapes me at the moment for the ACT exam, but please do check online. Some programs, though, only accept APs. So if you're doing SATs, ACT, and you're applying for programs in our sciences, then they only consider APs. The two big schools that accept SATs or AP or IB or anything are social science and public policy and arts and humanities. Programs in those two schools, there's multiple different ways you can apply to get into the program if you have SATs, ACT, APs, etc. The other schools only look at APs, so you need to make sure that you're doing the right APs. We typically look for at least 3 APs with a 5, 5, and a 4 minimum. Some programs will have particular APs that we look for as well. If you're doing the Franks Baccalaureate or the International Baccalaureate, we do also accept those. Obviously, if you're doing A-levels by chance, there's a variety of different requirements that we accept. IB, 35 points, to give you an example. This year as well, excitingly, we just joined the US Common App. So if you are applying from the US, please do check out our information on our website for more information. You have a choice. You can apply to us via UCAS, or you can apply to us via the Common App. So we're one of the only English universities on the Common App, and again, to give you options for when you're applying to us, to give you that flexibility. So please do check out that as well. We do provide accommodation, so moving on through the cycle now in terms of looking at accommodation, we do have a variety of accommodation. Some are apartment style, some are halls, we have dorm rooms. Typically in the UK, and this is not just King's, this is in the UK as a whole, we don't really do roommates. Some students are sad about that when I say that. I don't know why, but I think it's quite nice to have your own room. And the British culture is a little bit different than the US in terms of we don't like being packed into a room, so you have your own room. The flip side to that, however, is the idea of a university when you come typically is that you're entering adulthood, so we don't do meal plans. That's not to say that you can't buy food. We have restaurants on campus where you can buy a la carte, and you also have kitchens. And the idea is that when you're there, you get sent off to university with your cookbook, maybe Jamie Oliver, and then you learn as you go through the process, maybe into adulthood, how to cook, how to take care of it for yourself. So what you will find is a lot of British students might start off with beans on toast, and hopefully progress on through as they go through the semester. However, what you might still find from some students is by the end of their time at King's, they're still on beans on toast if they cook, and they take full advantage of all the restaurants that we have on campus as well. So these just to remind you of our campuses, and that's to show you where our residences are. So you can see we have a huge range of accommodation options on our website. You can take a virtual tour, you can go into dorm rooms, go around the neighborhoods and everything on our website. So I won't go into much more detail other than to say we do provide accommodation options to students. In addition to studying your degree, we also offer over 20 languages that you can take in addition to your degree. So some degrees, they could be part of your degree as an elective, others you can take them in addition to your degree, and so they won't actually impact your degree. You can get a separately graded transcript with your proficiency level on there, and they're all offered in the evening. And so we do that to make sure there's no conflict, because typically we don't have any classes in the evening. All classes are in the daytime. Again, it's 9 to 5 mentality. And that enables you then to do other things in the evening, whether it be researching, whether it be going out to do student activities, or doing a modern language. So I encourage you to make full use of that. Moving on now away from academics and how to get in, and talking a little bit about student life at the university. We like to say that at King's you can lead a King's life. We offer huge amounts of opportunities at King's, from taking part in sport clubs. We have over 1,600 different sport club members. I think we offer something like 200 different clubs to join. We have over 5,000 people actively involved in societies and clubs. Some students compete nationally, internationally. There's everything in the clubs, from having a debate club, a UN club, to a fencing club, to a Harry Potter club, I believe I've been informed. So everything in between. It's a huge range of options. If we don't have a club that you want to start, you can. We encourage all students to start their own clubs as well if we don't have a club that meets their needs. However, I think you need at least 5 people willing to join your club to officially form a club. Anything less than 5, not really enough for a club. But if you want to do your own, you can certainly do that. We also are very big into volunteering at King's as well. Now, I like to highlight this because we're in London. It's a big city in London. Obviously, lots of opportunities to work with those less fortunate in London, to volunteer domestically within our own city. But also, a lot of our programs are international as well. So during those breaks, spring break, winter break, or summer holidays where you don't have any other studies going on, there are lots of opportunities if you want to go abroad to also volunteer and do some aid work. There's a lot of clubs dedicated to that. Last year, over 2,000 students volunteered. So it's a huge thing at the university to get involved in. We also have our own student performances. We have our own bars, our own clubs that King's students can perform in and have access to. Happening right now, actually, this week, we have our welcome fair to welcome all the students that have just arrived, where you can find out in more detail about all these clubs, societies and events. We also have a world-renowned guest speaker series. This gentleman here is Kofi Annan. We've had the Queen recently, we've had Prime Ministers come, all kinds of things that are open to all students, regardless of discipline, to again give you opportunities to learn outside your major. Within your major as well, you have opportunities to have guest lectures from leaders in the field that often come in. Again, with the reputation of the university and the location of the university, we're in quite a good place to be able to bring in guest speakers. As I mentioned, we have concerts and shows as well. I think we've had everyone from Green Day through to a variety of British acts come in to the university club, so I encourage you to take part in that in the evening. We also have an a cappella groups as well. I like to highlight this because this group here is called All the King's Men, and as I mentioned a moment ago, if we don't have a club, you can start your own. Now, a British student along with an American student actually, who I believe, I can only imagine as a result of Glee, decided that we didn't have an a cappella group. Why didn't we? They wanted to start one, and that was 4 years ago. And since then, they've been to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival 3 or 4 times. They've won the best a cappella group in the UK. They recently was crowned one of the best a cappella groups in the world. They've done tours of Singapore, Hong Kong. They've been to the US 3 or 4 times now on a cappella tours, and that all came from 2 students deciding that they wanted to start a club. So if you can find an opportunity, we will support that, and I think this is a great example of that. Also, last year, over the past year, has been a big year for the university. We opened a new building on campus, Somerset House. If you've been to London, you might be familiar with that. We've bought the East Wing, and that's where our law school has moved into recently. This is obviously a picture of Queen Elizabeth II, who officially opened our building, as we were founded by a king. The monarch is the patron of the university and officially the ultimate head of the university as well. And this is kind of a nice picture to show that's our law building, and that's on the Strand campus. Again, just to kind of highlight this volunteering idea, this volunteering that happens at King's. Over £100,000 was raised for charity last year. King's also played a part in the Olympic Games last year. We were the drug control unit for the Olympic Games. So again, this shows kind of how the university is involved outside of the kind of the ivory academic tower. We are involved in events throughout London and take part in that. Beyond King's then, we like to say that you can graduate in style at the university. This kind of scary looking lady in the middle there is Vivienne Westwood, quite a famous fashion designer. She designed our graduation gowns. As you can probably see from the photo, the ladies are quite excited about that. I don't see any guys in that photo though, so evidently the ladies are a lot more excited about the Vivienne Westwood gowns than the male students. More importantly, however, we're ranked top 5 in the UK for employment. We actually was named University of the Year this year for graduate employment by the Sunday Times, which I think demonstrates our ability to combine high-end academics, teaching, research with employment options. So with the options available to our students, they are some of the most sought after students in the UK. Which is great considering I think that we offer such a variety of programs, everything from theology to philosophy to medicine and law, and some programs, more so than others, are more associated with employment opportunities right off the bat than others. Something like 90% of our students within 6 months of graduating find employment within their field of study. I think that speaks for itself in terms of how we prepare students for life after King's. I often get asked to kind of wrap up what we look for in students and what type of students we want to attract. And I think the next couple of slides really demonstrate that. We want students that want to make a difference, that want to contribute within their discipline, outside their discipline, to become an active member of the university community and to give back both in the community and in London and beyond. We encourage you to make discoveries, to be active in the classroom, to use that research time to contribute and be involved within the university. Some of the famous alumni now kind of becoming legends. This is Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and we have a long history of famous alumni from all different fields. Some of my personal favourites, to name but a few: John Keats, Virginia Woolf. Desmond Tutu on this slide is actually one of my favourites. Florence Nightingale founded the first school of nursing. The School of Nursing at King's was founded by Florence Nightingale, and we have a huge spectrum of alumni from all different fields and all different countries. So it's a great community that you will be joining. And these are some of what we refer to our legends in the making, some of our top students now that are going on to great things beyond their time at King's. I now would like to open it up to questions. The question box in front of you, if you do have any questions, this is your moment to start typing away if I haven't covered anything that you would like to know. This is my contact information. Again, my name is Chris Payne. I'm the head of the USA office. This is my email address. I encourage you to check out our USA section of the website. On that, we list all our visits to schools around the US and internationally, events that we're taking part in, more information about the office and how to apply from the US. So please feel free to do that. Also, after this presentation, probably from around 6:30, I'll be back on at our virtual booth to be chatting as well if you have any individual questions. But now for the last 10 minutes, I'll open it up to questions. So bear with me one moment while I'll scroll away to see if we have any questions. I'll give you a moment to start typing some. Okay, let me just open the question box. Okay, so one of the questions is they've done some research already and they want to know if we require APs and the AP results don't come out until June, how can they apply and what does that mean? Very good question. Essentially what we would do is if you apply, so applications are now actually open for next year, and remember that most of you the deadline will be January the 15th. If it's not medicine or dentistry, that will be October the 15th. If we require APs, we look at what APs you have done already from your AP results, and then in that reference letter is where we will ask your guidance counsellor to write your predicted grades for the rest of the year. Based on your transcript, what you've done so far and those predicted grades, we will, if you're looking like a strong candidate, we will offer you a conditional offer. Essentially what this means is the offer, it will be a letter and it will state that congratulations, we'd like to make you an offer to study at King's College London on the basis of achieving at least 3 APs with a 5, 5 and a 4, and it might have some subject preferences in there as well. What that basically means is that when your results come out for your APs in June, if you achieved a 5, 5 and a 4, or a 5, 5, 5, whatever we've asked for in that letter, you will then be admitted into the university upon sending those results to us, and your offer will change from conditional to unconditional. That's how it works for all students. And in the UK, students do not know until June which university they will be going to. And I know that's quite different than in the US. However, an exception would be if we accept ACT, SATs or APs, and you've already taken your SATs and SAT subject tests, for example, and we already have your results at the time of application. So if you're looking to apply for liberal arts, for example, or management or international relations, those programs accept SATs, ACTs, or APs. We can actually then make you, if you've met the requirements, an unconditional offer, which basically means you're in. Upon graduating high school, you already know if you're in. Applications take around 2 months to turn around. So from the moment you apply with completed application, we get back to you within 2 months. So if you apply in September, for example, end of September, beginning of October, you will find out before the holidays if you have an offer or not. So that's a great way to know where you're going earlier, perhaps if you do have SATs, ACT, and we do accept them for those programs that you're interested in. So great question, thank you for that. Another question is in regards to conditional versus unconditional offers. If you get a conditional offer and you don't meet the conditions, what happens? Another very good question. Basically what will happen is if you don't get if you don't meet your offer, say you get 5, 4, 4 APs rather than 5, 5, 5, what that essentially means is that we will look at we have to put your application to one side. We obviously make more offers than there are spaces. So then at that stage, we will look to see, do we have any more capacity in our program for students that have just missed out? If we do, and the academic tutor wants to still accept your application, they will contact you. However, if we don't, unfortunately, that would mean that your application will be declined because you didn't meet the offer of the letter. How that works in the UK, what does that mean for you if you were hoping to come to King's, for example, and you realise that you couldn't, is that within the UCAS system, as I mentioned earlier, is that you can apply for 5, but then you keep 2. The idea is if you get offers, 5 offers, you've done very well, you get 5 offers, you get rid of 3 of them, you keep 2 of them. And those 2, you have a firm choice and you have an insurance choice. So if you made King's College London your first choice, and then for whatever reason you didn't quite make the condition, and we couldn't accept you, then you would go to your deferred choice, your insurance choice, and that would be your backup. And so it's very important when you're applying for your 5 universities to spread the risk. You should not be applying for 5 universities that all require APs of 555, 554. You should spread the risk and pick 1 or 2 universities that has that, and maybe other universities then that will accept 444, for example, to give you some flexibility so you have a backup option in case anything goes wrong with your first choice. Any other questions? Okay, well, I think we're about out of time in any case. I'd like to thank you for joining me today for this presentation. As I said, I will be back on the booth in about half an hour or so, so please do stop by, have a look. If you have any live chat questions, please do so. If you're watching this video on demand, I encourage you to contact me via my email address and check out our website for more information. And I look forward to hearing from you if you have any questions. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of College Week Live.